in some ways, I think of biology as a size continuum, and many people like to study at different sizes. I happen to really like to study right between the size of cells down to molecules. And one of the reasons I really like this area is because I feel like it spans both biology and chemistry. It allows us to think about how the chemistry of molecules influences the way that biological systems can use those molecules. And we can start to understand and look at some of the logic of how biology uses chemical molecules to create things that we need for life.
Chemistry can help you explore deeper into the biomedical and the life sciences. When you become a chemist, you start to think of the world around you in a molecular way. Whenever you see the air around you, you think about the particles that make up that air. You start to think of the world around us at the microscopic level, and actually beyond that, to the submicroscopic level, to places where microscopes can't see. And a chemist learns to understand the world around them at that submicroscopic level.
I spent a lot of my time as a kid and in my undergraduate years wondering about how the environment worked, why certain trees grew in certain places, why the climate was different ways in different places, how things change over time. And that curiosity is what drove me to geology and ultimately to earth system science, which isn't just geology, but thinks about how different ways of studying the earth can come together to help us explain things more completely.
I realized that I wanted to become a nurse actually after I had engaged in opportunities to expose myself to political advocacy and political science. So after high school, I initially chose political science as my major.
No, it's just the cough, but...
It is fairly unique as far as having a political science background and wanting to go into nursing, but nurses are essentially trained to be advocates, and part of that means advocating for patients at the bedside, but also advocating for policy changes.
Health studies is a broad, big picture, and you can find your place in any part of that picture. But we are the people that look at systems and populations and communities and say, what can we do to make those better? What can we do to prevent them from having to enter into the healthcare system?
We want to give you a range of tools and experiences so that you can go out into the world and take a problem-solving approach to how we as humans are interacting with our environment. This means you're going to be taking classes in everything from the natural sciences to social sciences, and we're also going to be thinking about the socioeconomics of human society and things like social justice, history, and culture.
I think we have a very strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to see that STEM becomes a more inclusive environment, more inclusive for everybody.
If you do take a chemistry class, know that in the labs, you're going to work with a lab partner. You'll work as a team to develop data, and you'll compare your data with the rest of the class.
You want to make sure that you have plenty of evidence and documentation for your claims and make a strong argument that hasn't been made before.
Have an open mind. Think logically about the information that comes to you. So we don't want you to just passively receive this information. We really want you to be thinking with it, working on it. We want you to think about it like a scientist.
I love teaching students science, how science works, how to develop hypotheses, how to address your hypothesis. I have a very active research program with funding from NSF and NOAA, EPA, NASA, depending on the projects.
So there's actually a lot of ways to ask and answer questions about the environment that have nothing to do with being outside. Through computer modeling, through all sorts of laboratory work and other things. That often helps to be curious about the way the world works, but that doesn't have to mean that you are someone who enjoys standing in the snow like I do.
A chemist learns to become a good speaker, and they also learn to write. You also will develop skills in communicating at poster presentations, sharing information with the broader public.
Some of my students have moved into environmental education, so working with younger students to help explore and understand the natural world. Some of my students work in advocacy positions, so they work in areas that are helping people to understand how to protect or care for the natural world. Some students move into monitoring, so they might do things like water quality monitoring, stormwater monitoring, and some students work in policy. How should we best protect this watershed? How can we think about policies or laws or rules that might help us take care of the way the world works?
My passion is to get nurses involved in legislative advocacy, in clinical advocacy, in any way that they can to find their voice. You don't have to be a lobbyist. You don't have to be an election specialist. You don't have to be a political analyst. You just have to tell your story.
Lab experiences are amazing. We have a number of different people at the university who do have labs and who take in undergraduates and work with them. We also have a giant mothership just down the way that has lots and lots of labs, and we've had some luck in getting undergraduates placed in labs at Seattle as well.
Try to see what people who use the information you're learning do in their daily, day-to-day jobs. How do they ask those questions? How do they put those skills to use? And see if you can get an opportunity to try that for yourself.
A chemist can also work in drug modeling. They can do computational studies about how those drugs interact with humans. So then you can actually learn a lot more about how molecules interact before you actually test them in humans. A chemist also can go into environmental chemistry, where they can go and learn how to best trap some of the toxic gases that are in our atmosphere, and how we can turn those gases like carbon dioxide into plastics, into other materials that we need. And it takes those carbon dioxide molecules out of the atmosphere.
Students can come at an Earth System Science major from an interest in physics, in chemistry, in geology, in ecology, in environmental studies. And so taking courses that mix a lot of those different opportunities, so looking at things through those different lenses early on would be helpful to getting an idea of which way you like to look at the questions most and what's most interesting to you within the major.
If you are interested in health and wellness of people and populations, I absolutely think that you should think about joining student clubs that are focused in that work as well. For example, we have the Heroes on the Bothell campus, health educators reaching out. And the work that they do for our campus very deeply mirrors the kind of work that you would do as a public health studies practitioner.
You really don't want your schedule to end up so packed that you end up taking 3 nothing but science classes for your final years at Bothell. If you can, find a little room in your schedule for other interesting things, and do that by starting early and then pacing yourself through the major.
Meet different people. Try something out that you think you're not interested in. You don't have to continue if it doesn't work. But I used to take karate, and my karate instructor said, if you didn't make a mistake, that meant you didn't try. And trying is you don't necessarily have to succeed. You need to try it just to see what it's like. And that way you get to learn a lot of different things and learn from different perspectives.
I think the most useful set of skills is really mostly about curiosity. Are you good at looking at things and wondering, what might I ask about this? What don't I know? And then thinking about how you can apply different tools. Can I apply tools from ecology, from geology, from different parts of science? Can I apply tools like interviewing people about how they use the environment and how it's changed in the time they've been watching it?
There's a huge range. There are definitely people who go to med school. There are people who do nursing. The world needs a lot more scientists who have good science communication. And so that's something that we also like to try to teach you as a part of your biological sciences degree.
Some of the legislative activities that I've been involved in has served as an environment for me to improve my professional skills, improve my advocacy skills, and connect with lawmakers in a more direct way.
I think we have fantastic faculty. I say that without hesitation. Not only is every one of our faculty dedicated, they love working with students, but they're also really nice people, and the people that I enjoy hanging out with, and many of them I call close friends.
We look forward to seeing you in those classes, and we look forward to helping you interact with each other.
My advice for somebody that's considering this major is just do it. You are going to be opened to a whole nother world of interactions between people and the environment and systems and policies and things that you wouldn't have even thought about.
So if this sounds like a good fit for you, and you also are interested in learning skills like GIS and other computer-based analysis systems and taking field and lab courses, we would love to talk to you more about potentially joining our program. We hope to hear from you soon.